Hi friends, our book today is a Christmas classic, one of my favorites, How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch who lived north of Whoville did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one knows quite the reason. It could have been his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy hanging a mistletoe wreath. They're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and Who boys would wake up bright and early. They'd rush to their toys, and then, oh the noise, 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 noise. The one thing he hated, the noise, noise, noise. And the Whos, young and old, would sit down to feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something every Who down in Whoville, and the tall and the small would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand. The Whos would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing, 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 sing. The more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? And then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. He made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. He chuckled and chucked and clucked with a great Grinchy trick, and his coat and his hat. I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer, the Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh that he hitched up to old Max. Then Grinch said, get up! And his sleigh started down toward the homes of where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air, and the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, carrying empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where there was the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. He slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant. Around the whole room he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns, and plums. He stuffed them in bags, and then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimbley. And he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch never even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, and he heard a small sound like a coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know the old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear, and I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. He patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. When Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. Their walls left nothing but hooks and some wire. And then one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. He packed up their presents, their ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he said grinchiously, humming. They're finding out now no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. There's a noise, grinned the Grinch, I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. He did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook, and he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came, somehow or another. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with the Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed his load through the bright morning light. He brought back the toys, the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. The end. I hope you have enjoyed How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. We'll see you again for another great holiday story, but until then, air hugs. Bye, friends.